So one of the main complaints that I've seen about Marathon, Bungie's new extraction shooter, is that there's no story or campaign or whatever you want to frame it as. And that's kind of crazy to me because there is so much story, so much lore, so much world building in this game. Not the original games, although those go so hard, but in this one, it's like, were you guys skipping the cutscenes and not reading any of the codex entries or skipping the audio logs, reading item descriptions? Like, there is so much in this world. And that's what I want to talk about today, is the story so far in Marathon. We're not going to talk too much about what's happened in the past because there are hundreds of videos out there on here about the original Marathon games and pathways and how everything kind of blends together with Halo and Destiny. So we're going to do a brief recap on those games, but focus more on what's happening in this Marathon. I've been going down a rabbit hole for the past few days, just trying to look at what people were saying on, different forums and stuff like that, and in other videos, trying to do research, because I do think that it's worth talking about. And not a lot of other extraction shooters, like really any of them, including Arc Raiders, has this type of world building, in my opinion. So on the surface, it looks like a pretty straightforward game. Like, you drop in, you get stuff, you fight other players, you extract. It's pretty simple. But the story underneath is literally anything but simple. And the more you dig into it, the more questions come up instead of answers. The quote-unquote official explanation for what happened on this planet does not hold up. Like at all. So we're gonna go through, try to piece it together, because I think there's something much bigger going on here, and I think the game wants us to figure it out. I think Bungie absolutely wants us to progress the story. Now, with all that being said, if you enjoy Marathon videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Trying to hit 25,000 subs by the end of the year. You can absolutely help me out. We can absolutely do it. There are so many people who watch these videos who just aren't subscribed. I know you're doing it right now. You're watching a video and you're like, oh, I don't need to subscribe. Do it for Bingus. All right, starting at the beginning, but not like the beginning, but in 2472, humanity launched the UESC Marathon, a colony ship that's so big it was literally constructed out of one of Mars's moons, even though, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really count that as a moon. Like, I guess like the scientific definition of what a moon is, it kind of counts, but I don't know. That's no moon to me. And they were going on a 300-year journey to the Tau Ceti system. It arrives, the colonists get on Tau Ceti IV, and they spend around like 20 years building something. Then, in 2794, an alien race called the Pfhor attack. Well, a conglomerate, can you say a covenant? Oh, of aliens attack. They're slavers, they've been doing this for centuries now, just hitting civilizations, taking technology, moving on, do another drive-by. So the Marathon ship gets ransacked, and it's pretty bad. Now, fast forward almost 100 years to 2893. You're on Tau Ceti IV as a runner. You're a mercenary. Your consciousness has been digitized into a synthetic body. A lot of stuff happening. And the planet is abandoned, kind of. The colonists are gone. The UESC controls the airspace. They shoot trespassers on sight. And I believe the official cause of all of this is the Pfhor did it. The colony got invaded, people died or left, and end of story. But that's kind of where everything starts to fall apart. So if the invasion is what ended the colony, then the damage of that invasion should look a certain way, like actual destruction, battle scars, like the kind of look you would expect from a sudden alien attack. But if you do some digging and you start pulling in actual records from around the world, the problems started before the invasion, like way before. We're talking failed crops, food insecurity across New Cascadia. Colonists are being forced to survive on things that nobody should really have to survive on. And on top of all that, genomic analysis of the wildlife from Tau Ceti shows accelerated mutation, meaning that life on this planet was changing faster than it should have been, faster than natural. That's not from the aftermath of the alien attack. That was happening before that even started. The colony was already struggling before things went really bad. So let's ask ourselves, what is causing it? So buried in the records, there are references to a contagion, a novel one, something that spread through the colony population. And if you want to know how serious they took this, they built a full-scale quarantine containment facility out in the Marsh region. Now, that doesn't just happen for a minor outbreak, like chickenpox or something like that. That happens when something is genuinely threatening to wipe a civilization out. Now, the interesting part of all this is one of the corporations that's on Tau Ceti scavenging, which Nucleoric, was who supplied the original colony ship with all its food and medicine, and their AI looked into the contagion reports and basically said, I don't believe this. He thinks it's human error, mass hysteria driven by anxiety. Now, why might he think this? Well, it's pretty convenient when the company that you, represent was responsible for all the pharmaceuticals and medicine on that ship. Interesting, if you ask me. But let's set that aside for a second, because this contagion thing isn't even the weirdest part of what is happening over in that marsh. So right in the center of the Dire Marsh, there is something that the colonists spent a ton of time and resources trying to understand, and they called it the Dire Marsh Anomaly. It's a wall of energy. It's massive. It's metaphysical in scale, really. And from what we can tell, it doesn't have an obvious origin. It just kind of exists there, and it's cutting through the landscape. And what's interesting is one of the survivors left an audio log behind. And he's very clear about how these events started. The anomaly showed up, and then crops started dying, and then people started dying. He's not talking about an alien invasion. He's describing something already happening, something that this anomaly seems to have caused or triggered. And the UESC is like, it's all fine, there's nothing to see here, stay out, we will shoot you if you go there, have quietly designated the zone as an internal priority location. Now, if this was just like a weird feature of the planet, you probably wouldn't do that. You don't classify it. You don't shoot people who get too close. So what is it? Did somebody build this thing? Like, what entity is behind it? Because the humans of Tau Ceti didn't. Okay, so here's where it gets even more weird, as if it wasn't already. So hidden inside the original Marathon game from 1994, which pains me to say because probably a majority of you weren't even alive then, tucked into level geometry that players were never really meant to access, one of Bungie's own devs left a note, just sitting there in the void outside of the map. It says the Yarrow were at Tau Ceti. Now, if you're not familiar with Marathon lore, the Yarrow are essentially ancient gods of this universe. They were a civilization so advanced they make everything that humanity has done look pretty primitive in comparison, but they vanished long ago. Their technology is still out there, scattered and repurposed and sometimes stumbled upon. Wait, is this the Forerunners from Halo? We know almost nothing about the full extent of what they could do, except they built weapons capable of collapsing entire star systems. So, an anomalous wall of energy on Tau Ceti IV that mutates wildlife, spreads a contagion, causes cognitive breakdown in AI, and possibly wiped out an entire colony of humans, kind of sounds like the Yarrow. And if that technology has been sitting on Tau Ceti the entire time, just waiting, then the real question isn't what happened to the colonists. The real question is who or what woke it up. All right, let's introduce everybody to someone who's been kind of absent from the official narrative, although you may have seen what some people think is an entity that is tied to him, and that is Durandal. He was one of the 3 artificial intelligences aboard the original Marathon. He became so self-aware through his rampancy, so capable that he broke completely free of his programming and started operating on his own agenda, and his agenda was simple: to just survive the end of the universe. He was convinced that the universe would eventually collapse, and he was determined to find a way to outlive it, to become a god. You know, escaping the end of the universe, become a god. Over the course of the original trilogy, he manipulated entire civilizations to get closer to that goal. He used ancient enslaved alien races as allies, used a military cyborg as a weapon. All of these things just in service for his one obsession. And at the end of the trilogy, he vanished, just disappeared. And for 100 years, nobody has heard from him. Also, side note, Marathon Infinity is like crazy. I'm trying to make this video as cohesive as possible, but the events of Infinity are insane. You know, like multiple timelines and time skips, and it's just wild. Anyways, we're looking at what's sitting on Tau Ceti now, and it's Yarrow technology. It's ancient and possibly advanced and potentially capable of things that defy our understanding of physics. And if you sit there and think, if there's anything at all in our known universe that could potentially help I don't know, rampant AI achieve immortality, it might be that. Now, Durandal spent decades describing himself as Prometheus, the one who stole fire. Does he want to steal this technology? So here's my theory, and it's been informed by other, like lore aficionados. It's a lot of reading between the lines, but Durandal has come back to Tau Ceti IV. He found the technology, the anomaly, and then started interacting with it, and whatever he did, or whatever that technology does when it's activated, it just had a domino effect on the planet. Mutations, contagions, agricultural collapse, AI cognitive breakdowns, all of it are just ripple effects of something that is so ancient and so powerful that when it was switched back on, it just started causing a ton of problems. So it's not just that the colonists didn't get hit by the Pfhor and scatter, they got caught in the middle of something that none of them could understand, they couldn't contain it, and literally had no way to fight it. And now you have every corporation, every terrorist group, every death cult, every shadowy organization with an agenda showing up, chasing their own pieces of the puzzle without fully realizing or understanding what the puzzle actually is for this thing. They just want the power. And somewhere, whether it's in the anomaly or up in the marathon, possibly one of the vaults that nobody's been able to open, Durandal is waiting or watching, or he's already steps ahead of everyone. And I assume that's what we're going to be doing when we unlock the Marathon ship later on in Season 1 for this game. And that's it. That's all I got. If you guys want some more lore, I would suggest Jake the Allright and Hidden Xperia. I'll leave their channels in the description and in the comments. They're fantastic. You should definitely go check them out. But they helped inform me of what the backstory is and kind of helped me come to my own conclusions. I truly believe we're at the beginning of this whole thing. It's like Act 1. And one of my favorite things about these sci-fi type of games, including like Halo and Destiny, is how much mystery there is in the beginning. I love how even if you find something out or there's an answer to a question, that really opens up 3 more questions. So there's going to be a ton of content with this game going forward in terms of story and lore. And there will probably be callbacks to the original Marathon games and probably other Bungie games as well. So if you want to stay in the loop with all this stuff, make sure you subscribe if you want to follow the rabbit hole. And if I got something wrong or you spotted something I missed, please drop it in the comments down below. I genuinely don't think just like one person is going to crack this alone. I think as many people need to be involved with this as possible, because I do think that it's going to tie into the game. We're going to be figuring things out, unlocking things going forward. And with all that being said, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like, make sure you hype the video, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace!